Hi everyone, this is Tom from NoCodeShorts, where I showcase no-code projects from all over the world. And today with me is Taras, a friend of mine who is building a pretty cool stuff with no code. Taras, please introduce yourself and tell us more about the project.
Hey there, my name is Taras, and I run a bubble and no-code development studio called Erised. We're based in London, and we make a bunch of apps for various different industries, but we'll also make plugins, and in the future, we'll also venture into making templates. We've been going around for a couple of years now, built a few projects, and I'm going to show you one of these projects now. So this is a project for carbon accounting, which essentially allows people to input their activities and processes during normally a financial year, and for the app to tell them what their total tons of CO2 emissions are during that period. The way that it works is there are obviously companies that get registered on the platform, and they fill in a bunch of kind of basic information, like you see here. And each financial year, there is an assessment that gets done on the platform. And this assessment can be filled in by multiple users, and kind of each department of a company, if it's a large company, can contribute to this assessment. At the end, you're able to see all kind of individual emissions that the business has produced, and see the total of tons of CO2 that has been produced. If we go into assessments, this is kind of where the magic happens. The best way to familiarize yourself with the way that carbon accounting works is there are essentially three scopes that relate to what kind of assessments or what kind of emissions the business produces. So, for example, it could be emissions that you have produced directly, or it can be emissions that you've produced indirectly, for example, by having logistics deliver something to the business that is not your company. Within each of these scopes, there are kind of multiple categories, and each category has a subcategory that goes specifically into the detail of what exactly is the activity that you have been working through, and what is the process that you have been doing. So if we go, for example, into this assessment, you will see that there is a no-code type of build-in here, which allows the admins of the website to drag and drop things onto the page. So we can say no-code shorts demo in here, and you'll see that this appears here, and we can add a bunch of text at the bottom here. So if I generate some lorem text in here, you'll see it appears here. So this is kind of a pretty standard no-code builder where you can drag and drop.
Yeah, so you actually build a no-code page builder inside a no-code builder, right? A builder inside the builder. We build with no-code.
Exactly, yeah. But this one is specifically for assessments. So, for example, each company can have their own assessment, and you can, as you can see in here, have like a menu at the on the left in here, and you can kind of enable and disable certain sections. So, for example, if I go to main emissions, I've changed the names of sections for various reasons, but you can kind of move them around between kind of different headings. You can drag and drop them around if you want to, and you can see in the background they change automatically, just like this. And then you can obviously add a bunch of like images as well. So if I do this here, You'll see that the image appears here. And you have a bunch of kind of blocks, as I call them, that are specific for an assessment. Like, for example, the survey date. It allows you to have a look through the time and like select the financial period for when a certain assessment is going to be happening.
This is pretty
In
advanced. I have a question about how
yeah.
it was built. I mean, you used some kind of a pre-made template or plugin, or all this creator was built on in pure Bubble?
No, so this is just pure Bubble. There is one plugin which I use, which is called Draggable Elements. It's by Bubble,
Yeah, it's by
and
Bubble.
yeah, and this is the one that I've been using. Everything else is like vanilla Bubble. Yeah, yeah.
This is cool. This is pretty advanced. I mean, in terms of building your own assessment, and it's directly for assessment. So actually, it's not for, building only a block of texts and images, but also getting information from the database of the client, and you can expand it with some elements, right? As you said, for example, the survey date.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and you can also have like a client logo. This is not very descriptive, but for this client, this is the same image that I've used previously. You can also have, for example, scopes, which I've mentioned previously. So you can, for example, if you have, let's have a thing in here to say, transport assessment. And in here, you want to say, okay, so transport assessment relates to scope 1 and 3. And, you can save it. These are the color codes for these two scopes. But then you can also enable a title like this, or you can change its size to make it a bit larger. And you can also kind of make it horizontal as well. So you can really customize it to a degree that you want.
Yeah, this is so cool. I mean, a lot of people are wondering if you can build such interfaces in Bubble. I mean, interfaces, drag and drop interfaces to create pages or page builders. So this is the answer, right?
Absolutely, yeah, yeah. And it like you can really, really make it customizable. Like you can have a spacer, for example, and let's go crazy and add like 120 pixels. So that's going to be here. You can add like extra navigation as well. So you can, these sections here on the left, you can obviously select a bunch of them here, save them, and you will see that this will appear in here as tiles. And then when you preview this assessment, that's the way that this is going to look like. And then as you click on a particular tile, it, as you see, takes you to the section where you wanted to navigate. So this is, yeah, pretty a pretty advanced, I guess, build.
Yeah, it is. And that was my question about what happens after the assessment is created. I mean, the client can generate a PDF, print it, or send it somewhere, or publish it as a web page. What's the
Yeah,
process?
yeah. So as you can see in here, there is a preview button, and pretty much when you click on that preview button, this takes you to a special assessment page where people can log in and go to this page. This is, the actual assessment page, and they will fill in each section, section by section, in here. And as they fill it in, the section becomes complete, and new emissions get generated like that. So yeah, it's done fully, like fully in the browser, fully online.
Yeah, it's beautiful and pretty advanced. So can we jump into the editor and see how it was built?
Sure, yeah. So I guess we should probably start with with option sets. This is probably the most obvious place to start. There are a bunch of blocks or block types rather, which exist as option sets. And if we go into assessment, you'll see that text images, introduction, they all exist kind of in here. And then each individual block, like header 1, 2, 3, that is an option set item, and that goes into here.
And it has its properties, right, inside the option set. I mean, the icons, for
Yes.
example, of the type.
Yeah, an icon, some title, type as well, which refers back to here. And then if we go into this table called blocks, this is kind of where the magic happens. So you'll see that each block is connected to an assessment, and each block is connected to a section. So we are currently in an assessment in a specific section. So you can perform a search to find all the blocks that that exist for this section, for this assessment. And then you can determine which type of block it is. So it can be a header, an image, a block to collect emission information from people, et cetera, et cetera. And then you have, so for example, if it's a text block, like if it's a header or it's just text, there is a text field in here, which determines if you type in, for example,
the content of the.
Exactly. So that goes into here. And I didn't duplicate the field because, for example, if I change NoCodeShorts, this is header 1 and this is header 2, it's still going to be saved in the same field to kind of save the number of fields that get loaded into the browser. And then
where do you customize the look and feel? I mean, for example, that the header is the size and so on.
Yeah,
you can.
So there are certain certain blocks that are kind of predetermined in size, because after all, this is like for just an app where some things need to be like predetermined. It doesn't need to be as customizable as a fully fledged website builder. But for example, for this block where you can select the scopes, so I normally build with reusable elements. So most of my things are built using reusable elements. And you can see in here that I have pretty much 3 groups. So the vertical orientation has in it a repeating group with the scopes, and the repeating group is set up to account for, as you can guess, vertical scopes. Or you can have a horizontal, like a group which contains a horizontal repeating group in it. And then what determines which group shows is this blocks orientation. So if I switch back to the database, you can see that there is a special field for the scope block, and this determines the orientation in here. So that's pretty much the mechanics of it. And and I guess the final bit of the puzzle is the order. So the order determines the order of the blocks that appear on the page. What's really interesting, this is getting a bit nerdy, but the drag and drop mechanism to kind of move these blocks around. So if, say, I want to move this to here, or like just underneath it, or this one to here.
And changing order in the background.
Exactly, yeah. So this changes the order field in the database, but this was surprisingly tricky because you need to account for kind of the current cells index, obviously, which is where the current thing that you're dragging is currently positioned. But then there are special cases, like, for example, if you're dragging something to the place where it has an order of 1, then you need to make changes to all the blocks, for example, and kind of have an order of -1 to everything. But if you are dragging something that, for example, that has an order of not 1, then you need to make changes to a bunch of other blocks, but not the first one. In this list field in here, you kind of determine what blocks need to have this calculation applied to them. And this looks super easy now, and I
Yeah,
guess
from the user perspective, dragging and dropping and changing the order is some kind of a standard. But when you are
yeah,
trying to build it, you
yeah,
need to, it's not that easy to rebuild the drag and drop and ordering. There are a number of plugins
yeah,
in Bubble, but there are also a lot of solutions to do it with just the drag and drop plugin. It's not an easy part, right? This is for all
yeah,
the
yeah,
clients that just want to add a simple drag and drop to change the order. No, it's not the simple drag and drop to change
yeah,
the order.
yeah. It was like, I think this was a part which was surprisingly hard to do for whatever reason. It took me some time to really figure out like how do I reorder things, because a very obvious solution is just like if you drag up, you do -1 to the list of blocks, and if you drag down, you do +1. But then actually, no, it doesn't work like that. You need to account for which position you're dragging to. Is it one? Is it not
Yeah,
one?
a lot of
And
calculations, and also first you need to think about the algorithm and then how to calculate it. Yeah. So
yeah, yeah, yeah. So there is that. And I guess another very quick, interesting thing is there are actually, if I go into here, there are actually two drop areas in the groups. So the first drop area accounts for blocks, and the blocks are these things here that I'm dragging at the moment. But if I go back into here, remember this is a different data type. This is actually an option set in here. So what you need is another drop area, which will account for when an option set item will be dropped on top of it. And so once you drop it, then you can create a database record with a block. Whereas if you just drag and drop these things around, then that becomes a lot harder because you're using a different drop area as well for that.
so you
So
got the two drop areas, one inside each other to
yeah,
maintain this case.
yeah, yeah,
This is smart, right? I mean, it looks simple from the perspective of the end user, but it's not that easy to build. So it's really smart. Congratulations, man.
thank you so much. Cheers. Yeah.
And how long did it take you to build this creator, right? Not the whole app, but this
Yeah.
creator. I mean,
I think like the MVP of it was I guess like a week, something like that, and then
wow, impressive.
yeah, you start to add like kind of bells and whistles to it. It's like all things like in programming, you kind of make it work, then you try to make it fast, and then you try to optimize it. And this was kind of a similar process. You built it, and it was kind of like meh all around, and then you figured out how to kind of make it faster, optimize it a bit more, and yeah, just kind of do it that way.
And it also looks beautiful. I mean, from where did the design came from? I mean, it was previously designed in Figma and you transferred it through to Bubble, or it was designed in Bubble?
Yeah, so I took components from Untitled UI, which is awesome. I love using that UI kit, but then obviously adapted it towards this use case. They don't have a like website builder in there, but you can kind of like let's say these tiles, they have something similar to the tiles, and you can kind of take that mockup and put it into a repeating group, and now you have something that looks all right. Yeah.
So you didn't get any design, I mean, the whole app design in Figma. You designed it based on the UI kit, right?
Yeah. I mean, normally I just kind of work with the client, and my ideal type of customer, my ideal type of client is somebody who has trust in me to say, this is kind of the end result that we want, and this is roughly how it's supposed to look like. They might give me like a Figma with a landing page design that they have, and I kind of extrapolate from there. And we have calls quite frequently to discuss whether this is a good approach or not
Sure.
a good approach. And yeah, but normally yeah, there is no design that I work with. Yeah, it gets really interesting to when, for example, you start looking at like these are what I call simple sections, where you just collect simple data like first name, last name, or have a header that's really easy to accomplish. It gets interesting when you get to if I scroll just a little bit down to the assessment sections in here, to the assessment blocks, where you actually start collecting data about the assessment itself, about the emissions itself. So, for example, if you're collecting, call it, I don't know, transportation data, and you have, a Ferrari and a Ford, and a bunch of different cars that you have, then you really need to kind of dig into the details and also figure out how to account for the scenario where people, if it's a long survey, no one's going to complete it, right? So how do you kind of take the data that you have, maybe average it out and extrapolate it, or do you just leave things incomplete and hope that this is going to be like enough data for you to have accurate emissions and accurate carbon accounting in the future? So there are a bunch of problems like that as well that pop up.
Not only the problems of the app logic, but also the business logic, the UI thing, and all these things, right? I mean, the building
Yeah.
may be fast and launching, but in terms of complex apps like this, you need to rethink about how should the logic work, because sometimes it's may look easy to build, but then you end up with the thing that doesn't work because it's not logic, right? It doesn't
Yeah.
have the flows. I mean, it's not rethink. So
Yeah,
always good to think about it before you start building, before.
yeah. This was actually one of the reasons why I decided to go the kind of drag and drop and if you want to call it like a assessment builder approach, because for some companies, you might want to customize these assessments, and you don't like one size doesn't fit all in these scenarios. For example, for some companies, these sections in here might be just like irrelevant, so you can hide them if you want to in edit sections in here, and you might want to give like, for example, if the company is in mobile phone manufacturing or something, you might want to expand on the text in here to say you need to provide the components about the buttons, about the camera module, about the cable that comes in the box. So you do really want to make it as flexible as possible to the end user. And so, like, one of the options, and it's probably like an easier approach, is to hard code everything and just have this is an assessment, fill it in, good luck. But for some people, for some customers, it's not going to be enough, and this is where this comes in. I think Bubble is a really like, I got into Bubble by just trying to rebuild a startup that I was previously running, and I quickly felt that building in Bubble is similar. You get the same feeling as if you're playing a game. It doesn't feel like you are working necessarily, and as you kind of build and build more, you obviously get a feeling of this is good what I've built, or this is not so good, and eventually you just kind of want to improve. And the cool thing about Bubble and no code in general is that you can improve really quickly and you can learn things really quickly, and it takes a surprisingly short amount of time to learn new things. At the same time, it takes a surprisingly longer amount of time to become good at those things. So I'm highly encouraging people and trying to kind of get more people to try no code and try all these tools, because the power, as you can see from the example I just showed, of building like this is immense. You can build almost anything with it, if not anything. But then to become good at it, you do need to kind of have a deep dive into it, because some tools are, there are quirks surrounding them, and you need to know how to navigate them. And you need to know how to, if you are coming from like a traditional coding background, it might not necessarily work the way that you think it works or like it should work in traditional code. It might not work the same way in Bubble. Yeah, try it, and you will be surprised at how easy it is to build things with Bubble and how cool and great it feels. But then to become good, really do a deep dive into it and learn kind of all the quirks and all the specifics of it.